Hello and welcome to the episode 10 recap of Cruel Summer. Now, I know that season 2 hasn't been as popular as season 1, but oh my goodness, did they stick the landing on this finale or what? I loved it. Anyway, onto the recap. The events of this episode take place on January 1st and August 2nd, 2000. It's 5 a.m. on January 1st, and we pick up right where we left off last episode, and it's Brent who comes to Luke at the dock. Suddenly, though, it's the next morning. Brent comes home, he's crying, he's soaking wet, and he says to Steve that he has something to tell him. Back at the house, remember Isabella and Megan just left Luke there? They assume that he's still there. Anyway, they're arguing. Megan wants to go and untie Luke. Iz thinks that Luke got off pretty easy. After arguing a little bit, they decide to go to the cabin then, but Luke's gone. They go looking for him in the forest. They shout out for him. They need to find him before somebody else does. Isabella tells Megan that they need to destroy the tape, the one that the sheriff got from Ned's house, the surveillance tape. Megan feels a lot of regret and guilt, but Iz says that Luke is a bad guy. By January 3rd, Steve and Brent talk about how they can fix this. Steve tells Brent that he won't let anything happen to him. So yeah, we still don't know what happened between Luke and Brent that night when Brent came to Luke on the dock, but it can't be good. Steve goes over to question Megan, trying to put the story together. He makes it seem to Megan that he's concerned that Luke ran away. Megan runs to Isabella then and tells her that they need to get their story straight. She's panicking, but Iz is really calm, and she says that they should go with Steve's play that Luke ran away. Megan should forge his handwriting and write a letter as though it was from Luke, and she should act the part of the girlfriend with the missing boyfriend. I mean, she is the girlfriend with the missing boyfriend, but kind of play it up, I guess, and not act suspicious. So Megan starts putting up missing persons posters. The girls keep arguing, and eventually they start full-on fighting. Megan accuses Isabella of being addicted to drama, and she regrets bringing Isabella into all of this, getting revenge on Luke for being a jerk. He says that she came to this small town and made Megan's boring life better, and that Megan is really selfish. They're both just lashing out at each other, blaming each other, and Megan says that Luke was right. Iz is only happy when Megan is miserable. In the present day, August, so it's 8 months into the investigation of Luke's death, Steve puts some pressure on the sheriff to solve the crime. The sheriff tells him that they have security footage from Ned, the computer guy's house, and if he finds anything, Steve will be the first to know. Brent goes over to see Megan, and he's acting like a friend, asking about the case and the sheriff, but he's really just fishing for information. Megan tells him that the sheriff thinks that she and Iz colluded and killed Luke together. She also tells him that her lawyer quit because she couldn't afford to pay the fees. Turns out, though, that both the girls telling on each other was a strategy that Isabella came up with. Remember last week we thought that the sheriff was the one who made them turn on each other? Well, no. Iz is quite the mastermind, and I'm getting kind of a little bit suspicious of her and scared of her for the first time again in a long time. She's way too calm and organized. It's as though she's done this before. Megan still thinks that they should get the surveillance tape because it not only incriminates them or places them at the scene of the crime at that shady hour, but it will also have the person who actually killed Luke on it. Megan hacks into the department's records and she finds the tape. On the tape, she sees Steve's car, and they go and confront Steve. He knows that he's kind of caught, but he deflects and says that Trevor Cole, remember Isabella's friend who came into town, Colston from Bel Air, talked, and apparently Iz's friends have a habit of dying, so Megan had better watch her back. The girls leave then, and they're pretty spooked. They decide to hold off on telling the sheriff what they know. Then, I don't know, my heart kind of broke a little bit here when Iz says that the last few days kind of felt like the good old days. And she says she never got a do-over with Lisa. Megan is more cynical, and she says that they were just in the trenches together. This is not friendship. Brent is having a meltdown. The guilt of everything and the fear that the truth is going to come out is very overwhelming for him. Steve slaps him across the face and tells him to get it together. Megan then goes to check Isabella's hotel, but it seems as though she's checked out. As Megan is driving off, trying to find Isabella, the sheriff pulls her over and escorts her down to the station. When they're there, he shows her a tape, and it's a tape of Isabella and Megan at the cabin that night, kind of torturing Luke pretty much. But on the tape, Isabella is nowhere to be found. It's just Megan, and she has a gun in her hand. The sheriff handcuffs Megan and charges her as she panics, and she's shouting that she did not kill Luke. Steve tells Brent that Megan has been charged, and Brent seems to grow a conscience then. He says that she can't go down for this because he killed Luke and not Megan. It seems as though Brent would have preferred it if Iz would have gone down for the crime, but she wasn't on the tape, so Megan is the fall guy. Brent asks his dad then whether his mom was drinking the night of her accident. The dad says yes, but he didn't want her to be remembered that way, and he'll always protect the family. Brent goes to see Megan then at the station, and he tells Megan that Luke paged him that night from the dock. They argued, they started fighting, and that's how Luke fell into the water, and that's when we get the full sequence of events. Anyway, so Brent arrived at the dock, he helped Luke up. Luke started going on about how he's not a good guy, and Megan caught him in a bunch of lies. He also says that he thought that playing the sex tape at the party was his ticket out, but that backfired. He thought that it was one of Brent's tapes, but he grabbed the wrong tape. Luke says that he's just tired of lying, and he's tired of lying about Mom and the accident. He reveals then to Brent that while the story is that the mom was distracted by Luke in the car, she was actually drunk and that her iced tea was straight vodka. Brent obviously isn't ready to hear this. He pushes Luke. Luke falls into the lake, and when Luke doesn't come up for air, Brent dives in after him. Brent tells Megan that Steve wanted to cover it all up, that Steve was the one who put the money in the cabin. The sheriff, by the way, is listening to all of this in the next room because obviously they're at the station. Brent tells Megan that he won't let her take the fall for this, and he gets arrested. Steve, back at home, meanwhile, has lost everything. He's sitting in the dark as police sirens blare in the background. One day, Ned sends Megan a message and he says that a friend of his is looking for a coder in Palo Alto, and that's Silicon Valley where all the tech companies are, so this is a pretty big deal for her. So Megan's going to be fine. We see Iz on a flight then, and she's on her way to Ibiza, and she strikes up a conversation with the girl sitting next to her on the plane. She tells her that she's going to need a partner in crime in Ibiza, and Iz will show her around. It's very clear here that Iz is latching onto this new girl, kind of friend bombing her the way she did with Megan, and probably with Lisa. It's less sad and desperate for friendship and more creepy and stalkerish and very calculated. Isabella also introduces herself to this girl as Lisa. At the end of the episode, Megan takes one last walk on the dock to say goodbye to Luke when she sees a reflection in the trees, and it turns out that it's another surveillance camera directly pointing at the dock. On the camera, we see that Luke had actually managed to make it to the shore of the lake and he was alive. Iz was there, she saw him gasping for air, and instead of helping him up, she pressed his face into the water with her foot, drowning him, and then she pushed him back out into the lake. And yeah, that is the end of season 2 of Cruel Summer. Isabella was the killer. I did not see it coming. Even though Isabella was looking really suspicious and she was acting really calm, I still didn't think that she had anything to do with it. Also, I know this is probably the most absurd thing, but when Megan saw the reflection in the trees, for a split second, I swear I thought it was Luke. So yeah, that was a pretty good ending. Anyway, if you have seen it, feel free to share your thoughts, and thank you for watching.